secret passions.
Well, I've always found it really difficult to categorise myself, and there's so much snobbishness at art schools that I never dare say what I do, because if I don't say I'm a painter or a sculptor, then I'm second rate, and if I don't say I'm an animator, I don't get treated seriously, technically, so I just get on with what I do.
Throughout my whole life I've always painted and drawn, and I never really had a specific idea that I would be a fine artist or an animator or illustrator. I think I would like to say that I'm a little bit of all three.
It was just a way of using sketchbooks, and it was just making all my drawings move, and it was just like the fascination of making something move, and it's sort of quite addictive. So in the end you just want to do more animation, you want to see what else you can make move. With the miners' strike, we had them staying at our house, and we done collections, food, and went to meetings. And their situation was pretty bad. But when I learnt about what was happening in the African mines, could say that I was pretty worried, to say the least. But also, it was an excuse to just bring together all my interests and just try and experiment with animation, because I'd never actually made a film before. So it's just sort of like a good excuse to make a film about my concerns. I had problems of ways of colouring in without spending an hour on each one. So in the end, what I'd done, I just started just painting, just laying the paint down on the paper and sprinkling different bits like powder paint, anything went on there. You got in a right mess. But it was just, I just thought, right, I'm going to do this like a sketchbook, and just piled my way through it. So there's all sorts of mediums used on. There's glue, poster paints, bits of dinner, like everything goes onto those.
All right, basically just get the paintbrush and quickly get it out as quickly as possible. But once I had the idea, and I had about 4 storyboards before, and it took me about 2 years to think about how I was going to show the Spaniard. Was he going to be beating the Indian in? Was the Indian going to come into the church? That was a very big question. And I started off with just little pencil scribbles and reading things, and if something gave me an idea, I'd note it down.
At last I've actually said it. The thoughts that I recorded in my notebooks are thoughts I couldn't actually say to anyone, but now I've actually made this film and I've shown a lot of people that do know me anyway. I feel that now I've said it properly and they do know what I mean. And even they've said to me, they said that I can't begin to say what your film is about, Petra, but I do know what you mean. They do feel moved by it in a particular way, and that for me is, I feel that has been the most important thing for me.
When I finished college, because I'd been working on it so hard, I hardly went out at all, I just worked all the time, that I was quite amazed that other people had noticed it, because all I could see was the mistakes. And well, it's only been like 2 years later that I can actually sort of appreciate my film, and it's also because it helped get me a grant to do another film. Sort of realised how important it was. But I just looked through it and saw there was a mistake there. I was feeling pretty anxious that day. It's just sort of like a catalogue of my life at the time,
It wasn't supposed to be about Peru really in the first place. It was supposed to be about any other place that had been exploited, where people had been exploited. But then it seemed relevant to draw upon my background, having been to Peru. My mother's Peruvian.
O Viracocha, Lord of the universe, whether thou art male, whether thou art female, O Lord of divination, where art thou? Thou mayest be above, thou mayest be below, or perhaps around thy splendid throne and scepter. O hear me. from the sky above, in which thou mayest be, from the sea beneath, in which thou mayest be, Creator of the world, Maker of all men, Lord of all lords, my eyes fail me for longing to see thee, for the sole desire to know thee. Might I behold thee? Might I know thee? Might I understand thee? Oh, look down upon me, for thou knowest me. Sun, the moon, the day, the night, spring, winter, are not ordained in vain by thee. O Weiracotcha, O hear me, O choose me. Let it not be that I should tire, that I should die.
The poem was very important because that came about halfway through. I was thinking of it. It's by Sir Clement Markham, and he's taken from actual Indian prayers, which I found very moving because I'm Catholic, and it's also very similar to a Catholic or Christian way of prayer. It's got everything. It says, whether thou art male, whether thou art female. I love that because Catholics never would think, oh, whether God's male or female. Going to the museums and seeing how much gold and how many beautiful things were actually made really impressed me. And the fact that the Spaniards had destroyed about 16,000 tons of gold just to melt down into gold bars seemed to me, you know, barbarity again.
I'd never just make a film that looked nice if it wasn't. I'd never ever do animation if I didn't think it was worth doing, because I had to. I don't see the point. Because, as I said again, it's really, really tedious. You've got to keep telling yourself every day that this is worth doing, otherwise you'd never want to do it. It's really boring and you never see any daylight.
Well, in the Museum of the Moving Image, there's a little glass cage which is called the Goldfish Bowl, and we all used to have to sit in there, and it had a glass panel, so you were absolutely exposed from top to tail to the public if you did anything, you know.
There wasn't any air conditioning. I think they'd found the space in the museum. It was sort of like an old cupboard, and it had a glass door in front, and it was really, really boiling hot because of the lighting and everything. And I was working with oil paint, and the fumes were absolutely unbearable, and everyone used to walk past going, God, it stinks in there. I used to get a real complex.
Several people came in who had no background in art or whatever and said, well, why have you got this here? I mean, I don't understand this in my storyboard. And it really made it clear to me that the way I have of thinking is clear to me, but not to other people necessarily.
I know, but I don't think I really want to tell anybody what it means. It's not anything that would be too embarrassing, but I've found it's really better to keep your mouth shut, because as soon as you begin to talk about one area of symbolism in it, that can kill the fantasy that somebody else had for it. They might have read their own version of that incident, and then if I say that, they'll think, well, you know, she obviously doesn't see along my lines, so they'll give up on it. I think it's better for everyone to read it in their way. I didn't know if it would work, like I said before, to string all these tiny events together in a sort of cyclical pattern of movement through time. But as far as I'm concerned, I have said what I wanted to say in the right way. I mean, in a year's time, I might really hate this film, but I am pleased with it at the moment. I mean, I've tried writing, but I'm not very good at it. And I suppose the best thing would be theatre. And I trained as a theatre designer, but that wasn't right, and I can't act. So with animation, I feel that I can direct and be in it and say who else I want to be in it and be in total control and actually make it.